Welcome into the KSO show. I am Mason Voth here solo again on a Friday. There will be another show here, though, where Drew gets together with me and we talk a little bit more football because there's a pretty significant football game that is taking place this weekend. So we can't just go a couple days in a row without having football content for you. Not how that works. So we'll have that in addition to what you're about to hear. But what you are going to get right now is a conversation that I had at Big 12 Media Days on Wednesday with Matthew Driscoll, the new associate head coach for K-State basketball. He was added to the staff later on in the offseason, then some coaching changes, but that's because he was a sitting head coach at the Division I level down at North Florida. He'd spent 16 seasons leading the Ospreys. He was the only coach that they had ever had in their Division I existence. He won 3 conference titles, a trip to the NCAA tournament, and numerous years where they had one of the best statistical offenses in the country, according to KenPom. Now his offensive expertise is being brought to Manhattan to retool some things that Jerome Tang admitted that, hey, we had some blind spots or some things that we needed to change here. And they're hoping that Matthew Driscoll is going to do it. He's a high energy guy, incredibly just awesome insight that he was able to give us yesterday to kind of the workings of his brain and how he sees the offense kind of playing out and how he communicates that with his players. So I think he's somebody that is well on his way to being a fan favorite, and even more so if he's able to deliver a really impressive offense for K-State this coming season. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Matthew Driscoll.
You have a high-definition face for radio, so
I
don't know if his videos
fortunately, it's so dark here,
good.
People can barely see it. They're
That's
just going to
good.
hear us really anyway.
Well, the good news, you can always fog me out. Can't you, isn't there a setting now?
Oh, we can do something to get you, or doctor you up even, make it, however
There you
want to look,
My wife might like that. Yeah, she had cataract issues in her eyes, so I hurried up, took about 9 months and married her, and then when it all cleared out, I just told her that's still her cataracts acting up. She'll be all right.
I'll start by asking you this. How was it a difficult decision to go from being the head coach of a school in Florida to being an assistant coach at a school in Manhattan, Kansas?
Yeah, difficult's a great word, very complex. I just received an extension, and obviously I've been there 16 years, 61 this year, and so I had an opportunity to kind of ride off in the sunset, so to speak, and we have a beautiful home there, and we raised our boys. And so when this opportunity presented itself over the last 3 years, maybe. It started with Jose Plaisir, and then Jerry Sicklin went to Oklahoma State. Jose went to South Florida. Jonathan went to FIU, and Jaden went to ETSU. And so I'm like, man, where's this thing going? Because we had a chance to probably be in a hunt for multiple championships again. And then I vacillated what to do, and then Chaz Lanier came along. And I'm like, man, I really like this group. I really love this, what we're doing. We went on a foreign tour to Costa Rica. So I was always planning on walking away in this time so that my staff who had been with me could take over the position. And then last year, after Chaz left, I thought, okay, this is the time. But I never had anything because I don't think anybody would ever fathom coach is going to leave North Florida.
Yeah.
And so I just went about my deal, and I really liked this group last year. The Liam Murphy kid, who's one of the greatest shooters we ever coached, is at Purdue now, and 2 kids at Indiana. One was, freshman that was really, really special. Another kid went to another school and got paid a lot of money, and we beat South Carolina and Georgia Tech. We're the only team in NCAA basketball history, at our level, to win 2 true road games in the first week of college basketball against 2 Power Fours. So you're feeling great, and then, life got in the way. And so we ended up 500 again. And you're like, gee, many Christmas. So it's almost like Groundhog Day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He just keeps on throwing a toaster in the tub, and he keeps on,
Well, and what's it like for, specifically, you were in the A-Sun and then some of the other conferences like that. The portal probably has to make life hell on you guys now, because you're talking about multiple guys where, Lanier ends up at Tennessee and guys going to Indiana and Purdue. What's that process like? Because obviously you ran a solid program down there, and you feel good about the future, but how do you kind of keep going when these guys, if they're successful and you want them to be, they're probably not going to be there.
That's what you
year.
tell them, though. So when this thing came along, like the dudes we brought in and dudes we signed, we redshirted a 7-foot freshman that's really, really talented. There's a couple freshmen that we signed that are really talented. I can't talk about them anymore.
Yeah.
But we knew that. We even talked about, like, these are probably the next dudes. So you got to win now. You got to, because you only get 3 days in March to get to the tournament in our league. It doesn't matter. You could be 28-4.
Yeah.
If you don't win in the tournament, you ain't going to the tournament. And so when this opportunity presented itself, and it came through a calling from God, I really knew that, and Kerry was very on board with it's the right time. And to North Florida's credit, they hired one of my assistants, and my other assistants were able to stay on. And, we've been very, very honored. They endowed a scholarship after my wife and I because of what we did and how way we've impacted that community. Because we were, at the infancy of my first year was the first year we became Division I eligible.
Wow.
And so, the things that you do and the way in which you do it and like how you do anything is how you do everything, that. And so it's been a great transition, and it's been a great deal for me, and I have no regrets. I'm not worried about calling a timeout. I'm not worried about going to talk to you guys. I'm not worried about, this, that, or the other, and that's kind of the beauty of it. Coach and I were together in Chicago. We left after summer practices. We were both flying out together. We had a 4-hour layover, and 3 of the 4 hours he was on the phone dealing with whatever he was dealing with. And I was eating in a room, and I was reclining and watching video of the summer and seeing how we could get better. And so there's a lot of different things that, as a head coach, that you don't have anymore on your plate. And so you can really do a lot of good for your players, but also, too, for the young staff. Help mentor Coach Tang and Coach Mills and Coach Drew when I was the oldest guy at Baylor. And so you can mentor these young people and help them, because they have aspirations, right? They want to get to where you were. There's only people don't realize this. Part of your question, it's a really good question, because there's only 365 Division I coaches in the world. There's only 365 men's basketball Division I coaches. Like that's pretty special.
Yeah.
And so to walk away from something like that, it's got to be God. God's got to be doing something.
Yeah, and we'll get into the K-State stuff real quick, but kind of the psychology of where you're at is fascinating to me, and I think says probably a lot about the mindset that you bring to this team. Is you mentioned how obviously important the conference tournaments are for you guys at that level. Like, what's the kind of, is it stress and pressure that you're feeling over when you're getting ready to start your conference tournament at that level, knowing like these are, like you said, the 3 days that matter here. This is what's going to determine what we do. Like, what's that like for you as the head coach?
We never not made the tournament. In the beginning, only 8 teams made it. And pretty impressive record that we never not made it. But then sometimes we went in as the conference champion, and then sometimes we went in a lot as a 4 seed. It seemed like that was our magic number for whatever reason. And in our conference tournament, it was always the highest seed host. And several times we fell, unfortunately, on the bad side of the tide for 4th, and you're still the road guy. And I think 2 years ago with Chaz was double overtime, and you're like, so, you're that close.
Yeah.
And then the team you lost to played in a championship game against Stetson, and so you're obviously vicariously living through that particular moment. But the one thing you have to do is, and this is how we always approached it from the very beginning. Our second year, we played for a conference championship on ESPN against Belmont. And we always approached it the same way. You can't win a championship until you win the first game. Yeah. So it's irrelevant. This is irrelevant. This is what's relevant. And so you kind of go with that mindset. I don't know about, I'd say, to lead your team to the NCAA tournament at that level for the first time ever is a big deal. And then once you do it, we'll do it again.
Yeah.
Well, you do it again. Then you win the next year. We will go back-to-back regular season champs, right? And we get upset in the semifinal at home. And like the world's coming to an end. And you're going to play Florida at home in the NIT because their arena's getting fixed. And people are like, you suck. You're not very good. Like, well, what's wrong? What's wrong with our team? And then win your third championship in 2020 in 6 years, one of only 2 teams to win with 4 years apart with no one from either roster. A completely different team. And you win another one. And we lose in the semifinals at home to Lipscomb, who goes on to lose to Liberty. And, like, the world's coming to an end. We got to get back to the tournament. We got to get back. Well, no kidding. Yeah, we want to get back to the tournament, too. So I guess maybe there was more stress than maybe I knew, now that you've said that.
So this year could really be a cathartic experience for you, where in the Big 12, it's, what you do in the regular season is typically the most important. That will dictate you guys being able to get in.
I used to always say that. If it didn't say North Florida, and instead of having 6 money losses, I got 6 money wins, they'd be building a statue for us, right?
Yeah.
Because we'd be a little above 500. We'd be going to the tournament every year with 20 wins.
Yeah, it is wild how it works, and just the difference and how it's structured at the different levels. And so you're brought in, I think, primarily for your offensive prowess that you have. And this team definitely, from my point of view, needed a shot in the arm on the offense. Some of that is, I think you guys have the horses to do it this year. But what is it that you felt like you've brought to the table and that you've tried to adjust with how this team is going to go about things offensively?
I'd say it's threefold. Number one, let's go back to the beginning. It truly has always been, when we were at North Florida, I believe the game ball in my office for our first win was 57-46. And the reason why it becomes a little bit more of a joke is, I don't know, 7 years later, 8 years later, one of our returners comes back and says, "Coach, we scored this in half." You know what I mean? And so I think the game's evolved, but it's always been players, not plays. I've said it for years. Go back into whatever, Jimmy's and Joe's, we all know that, right? And so when you have players, not plays, you have to understand that. I think number 2 is the ability to translate what you know that they can grasp and understand. So, and I don't want to say, and I don't like using a word, we don't do dummy offense. We call it 5-on-0, and it's teaching.
Yeah.
Like, I think using the word dummy is not good. Like, when you're telling the guys, like, this is for dummies, like, what are we doing? Like, no, this is 5-on-0 teaching. And so I think when you simplify, because we know simple is sophisticated, I'm very, very big on that. And when you have a disciplined commitment to that consistency of simple being sophisticated, the if-then statements now become more prevalent. And so what looks like a simple deal now becomes super complex, but it's not complex in their mind because it was presented in a simple fashion. And so now you become a little bit more organic. And now let's say, for instance, let me give you an example. Something that you do in one particular scenario transpires or comes to fruition in a completely different scenario that it's not supposed to. When you taught this, it looked like this. And when you taught this, it looked like this. But while you were running this, the defense, decided to make you play differently. And all of a sudden your brain says, oh, this looks just like that. And now, bam, you're able to do what you need to do. And so that's where the simple and sophisticated part comes into play. And then the last part of it, not only is it players and not only is it the simplicity, you would be really unintelligent, in my opinion. And they either know it or don't know it. Sometimes I made it clear and sometimes I made it cryptic. But I talked to every single person on staff, young and old, about offense and about, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Who did this? What did you like about that? What's the best thing you saw on Twitter? What do you like about all these European teams you've been watching? Who runs the best offense in the league? Who's got the best defense in the league? What does the best defense take away? I asked all these questions because at the end of the day, you can recruit a round peg to a round hole. But when you come into a situation where you got 10 new guys, and I didn't recruit a single one of them. And so now you got to say at the end of the summer, Coach, I know we just spent 7 weeks on this, but we're going to have to tweak it. And Coach is like, okay, change it. Do it. And then you say to the guys, hey, guys, we're going to have to tweak this or we're going to have to change this. I just was starting to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's not what you do. You say, guys, listen, as we look through things and as we're trying to figure things out, the one thing that's come to fruition is, the one thing that's really become clear when I've watched the video is, like, you do this really well, you do this really well, and you do this really well. We'd be unintelligent if we didn't take advantage of that. So we're going to change a couple of our different rotations or the way in which we do things. And so that would be the three things I would say that really has been the evolution, as you called it. I think that's what it's been.
So is that something that has long-term benefit, like once you get into the season where, whether, I don't know, if you guys are struggling or if it's, hey, we're going to have a string of games coming up here where, in this league, Iowa State and Houston, they like to kind of wrestle instead of play basketball
muck
sometimes, where you want to.
They want to muck it up, like Missouri. They're going to muck it up.
Like you have to change things on the fly, and do you think that helps your players be more adaptable to that?
So, yes, I think from that aspect of it, but I think more clearly on the other side of it is, the one thing about a coach is when you recruit guys and you go through the system, right? And you say to yourself, okay, who do we have or what do we have that gives us the ability, who can get by a guy? Who can create their own? And usually you got one dude, especially at our level. Every once in a while you'd have two. Like, I really feel like we have 3.5 guys that can really create their own or create the ability to create two on the ball and create an advantage somewhere else without a ball screen, without a knockoff, without some kind of a screening action. You get the ball, I get the ball, beat me.
Yeah.
And so that's been really exciting. And to me, that bodes well for us when they decide to do this to PJ, or they decide to do this to Abdi, or they decide to do this to Nate, or they do, whatever it is. I think that really bodes well for us as we move forward.
So with the offense, people I think are going to have expectations all over the place. You guys had some really highly rated offenses at North Florida. What's the priority in terms of not just specific to this team, but maybe overall in your coaching career? Like, what's been, hey, this is number one, what we need to try to do on offense? Is it playing fast? Is it getting, this shot at this time? Or?
I think pace, number one, is critical. The ball crossing half court in 2 seconds, whether it be by the dribble or the pass. It's got to cross half court, because the sooner you cross half court, the more pressure you put on the defense, the more you can attack from the baseline side, the more you can lower the defense, creates mismatches because they're unsettled. The mismatches create long closeouts create driving angles. So definitely the pace. That's going to be so critical to the space. When I say, and you've heard me say it, pace and space, and the third one that rhymes is embrace, but you have to embrace the pace and you got to embrace the space. Because it's not always good, better, best, never let it rest, or your good's better, your better's best. In order to get the best, sometimes it's not in the first 4 seconds.
You'll be happy to hear that Abdi Bashir quoted that exactly when I talked to him earlier. So,
but you get that is cool. But you get that shot sometimes in 4, sometimes the last 4, like the other day. PJ had an 8-foot floater with 3.5. Abdi was yelling, drift, 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 and boom, 1.9 on the clock. Abdi lets it go and swishes it. And so, everybody thinks pace, shooting the first 7 seconds or shooting the first 10 seconds. No, it's about getting the best shot for your best player. Well, coach, that means that this guy's going to get all the shots. No, I didn't say that. I said the best shot for your best player. Your best player might be naked at the rim for a drop-off, or your best, that might be his best shot. Basketball is so simple. Think about this. Coach, what do you want? Layups and dunks and rhythm threes. Okay, Coach Tang, what don't you want? Layups and dunks and rhythm threes, right? So you're talking to the defensive guy, right? We don't want to give up layups and dunks because those are unbelievably high points of possession, and you don't want to give up rhythm threes. You want to make them either bounce it or contest it or yada, yada, yada. And so the game of basketball is not complicated. If you do that on offense and you attempt to do that on defense, you got a chance to be successful.
So would the theory on offense be when you're playing fast, the way that I viewed it, where for teams that play quicker, is some teams it's let's get the shot up when there's still 23 seconds on the shot clock, which could happen for you guys. But
it does.
The way that I view it is if you're playing fast, you're going to maximize the looks you get at that right shot. So to like where I think some teams don't get the ball across until there's 20 seconds on the shot clock, which you feel like you just killed a third of your possession time. And so then it's like if you're moving the ball around, you're going to get maybe 2 looks on that or 3 looks. For you guys, it would come across as you're going to have the option to, we could get it on that first one, but if we have to keep working it, we've got ample time to where we could try for 4 or 5 different looks at a shot.
Especially when you move the ball from side to side. The second side, you can usually get a pretty good look, especially you can get a pretty good look going downhill. But the third side, you can get whatever you want because it's really difficult to guard for 25 seconds.
Yeah.
It may look good on TV. Oh my gosh, they can guard. But what has transpired is you've got them moving from side to side. Now you've got them in different rotations, different matchups. You might end up getting the particular player you want on PJ that they don't want. Mm-hmm. So now you've created that advantage, right? Or the guy on Nate or whatever. Now he gets the ball back, and now we got to guard him. It's probably not going to go well for us, right? And now they got to bring a second guy. Well, now when you bring a second guy, who you leaving?
Yeah.
And then let's say you leave Moby. Okay, you're going to leave Moby. Okay, big deal. So we throw him a lob or we throw him a pocket pass. And Moby's so smart that when somebody else's man, by nature, rotates and helps, he kicks it out and we get a 3. So.
Have there been some guys that you have been?
You got to watch my rides right there. So
I don't think he's going anywhere for you.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got to come talk to me. So I think the last thing I'll ask you, have there been any guys that once you got here and you got to see them in action where you were maybe kind of surprised at what they could do or excited about what they could do in your offense where you go, oh, wow, that's going to be nice to have?
So I think, number one, because I didn't recruit any of these guys, I was just going off of video or reputation. I'm really shocked about our packages and the ability for guys to do things outside of what's been presented to them. However, don't let what you can't do get away with what you can. And so, David is a good example. I didn't realize David could do the things that he could do. I had no clue. I didn't realize Kamari's touch around he's 68% last year, 65 or 68% at the rim last year. Like, to see his touch around the rim and have scored over a 7-2 guy, just the fact that Elias can really move the ball and really understands the connectivity that goes along with being that guy in that position. Andre in the last 2 weeks has been as good as anybody as far as doing what he's really gifted at doing and making the game slow down a little bit more for him. And so I could go down a list like Nate. Nate's shooting the ball better than he had shot it. Now, it's not under the lights yet, but he's shooting it better than he shot it. And I tell you what, quite frankly, PJ has really embraced being coached. He really wants to become better. Mm-hmm. He's embraced the little things that we've been helping him with, his footwork and his ability to see angles. And, when you play inside the red zone, Mahomes is a genius, but he's a genius because when he gets in the red zone, he creates more space for himself as opposed to staying tight up on the line. And that's where PJ's really starting to learn through video or through experience. It's been interesting to see all these guys get out on the floor. Steven just got on the floor for the last 2 weeks now, coming back from an injury, and to see a kid like him, and you're like, whoa, like, this guy's going to – I tell you who else has been really not a surprise, but Taj has been doing some things that have really been good as well too.
I'll let you get out of here. You got to play one game at K-State as a coach at North Florida? 4, okay.
But 3 out of 4.
One of them got canceled. The fourth one
was
for
COVID, yeah.
Yeah, I had a guy ask me about that the other day. He said, true question, the last COVID cancellation for K-State? I said, I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. He said, it was North Florida. So,
sure was.
Do you have anything that sticks out from when you came to
We stayed at the
Manhattan?
courtyard.
Okay.
I can tell you that. I walked to the Dunkin'. It was freezing cold. And we saw, I think it was Nigel Pack.
Yeah.
We saw him on the court. We were going out to practice, and he was out on the court shooting or whatever he was doing. And so the thing I remember the most is the students. As an assistant at Baylor, you guys were brutal because we were on that side of the court. And then as a head coach, you weren't very kind. And especially the overtime game was an amazing game. But your students are, and that was when you guys were still in session. So the students were even, greater and louder. So yeah, it's
we'll
good.
get him out. All right, we're kicking out for the big
good.
man. Great talking to you.
Thank you, brother.
All right, we appreciate the time that we got with Coach Driscoll yesterday for a number of reasons. Number one, they were getting close to leaving, and he took all that time with us. Number two, while he was supposed to go and do radio with Mitch Fortner and K-Man, he still did after me, but I ended up getting him first, and then I did feel kind of bad because we ran it up there. We went for a while. But I was engaged the whole time, just fascinated by every word that he had to say, because as a big offense guy, it's fun to get to hear somebody that is that passionate about putting the ball in the hole. And the way that he describes it and the way that he looks at it, I think is spot on for how you should be approaching the game. And it's something that should excite people, because there are other coaches that you can hear and go, oh man, like, I want that guy to be on my team staff. And Matthew Driscoll is a guy that when he talks, you go, oh, I want him to be coaching my guys. And for K-State fans, you're fortunate enough, he's coaching your guys right now. And I think he is going to be a key part to any success that K-State is able to have this season. The other instance that I think of this is, Kevin Young. I heard him speak, the BYU coach, after they beat Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament last year. And he said things about offense that I just was like, oh my gosh, that might be the smartest man on the face of the earth. And I got some of those vibes from Matt Driscoll yesterday. Is that hyperbole? Yes, that's a little Jerome Tang-esque of me to call Coach Driscoll the smartest man on the face of the earth. But I was just excited to hear something like that, because I feel like we haven't gotten to hear that exact type of thing from K-State basketball in a while, if ever. So I'm excited to see what the offense looks like. Plus, when you hear the players and the conversations I had with them next week, you're going to start to let some of it click, because they drove it home even further. This team is going to play a little bit faster, and they've got quite the purpose in what they're going to do. So that will do it for our basketball content today, or at least for the time being, because later tonight we will be going live to react to K-State's exhibition performance against Missouri. Since you're getting two power conference schools playing against each other, we'll see how it ends up working out. Is it like a real game? I think Jerome Tang expects it to play out that way. He's, I think, said in the neighborhood of 10 to 11 guys will play. They're playing to win. And even with that, he did wish that they could have segmented it into maybe quarters and done some different things with it. But because it's on TV, which he was 100% okay with. So that it's a great thing that game is going to be on TV. But he was hoping that maybe they could work a few different things. So K-State's going to have to play it like a straight up game. They're going to play to win, and we'll have to see what that looks like tonight. So that'll do it for today's edition of the KSO show. There is another one that you're going to be able to watch at some point, me and Drew talking K-State and Kansas Sunflower Showdown football. So I'll get out of here, and we'll have more basketball stuff for you on Monday, talking to the players. Moby Garuka, PJ Haggerty, and Abdi Bashir were in Kansas City last week. Those conversations coming next week. Lots of football coverage this weekend. Good or bad, KSO will be there ready to provide it for you.